Today we're going to be talking about Cynet mining versus Small World. Which one is better with the context of Malice in mind? Everything I'm going to be saying is specifically going to be for the TCG. I am not going to be commenting on the OCG because the OCG and the TCG, they're running Malice a bit differently, and that's primarily because they have two different ban lists. And who knows, maybe there will be some kind of changes between now and then for the TCG. Don't know, but we're going to be talking about how it is right now. Okay, so I have right here all of the primary cards that need to be involved for this conversation. But before we can get into any of these guys right here, we got to talk about what do these cards do. So first and foremost, Cynet mining, you send one card from your hand. It can be any card, it doesn't have to be a monster. It can be a spell or a trap. You send it from your hand to the grave, and then you add one level 4 or lower Cypress monster from your deck to your hand. So you're going to be using this to get any of these cards right here. These are all under level 4. And then Small World, I'm going to explain this in my own way because reading this card to me made no sense. So you use Small World, and then you pick one monster from your hand. This monster will be called card A. Now, from your deck, you must find card B. That's going to be another monster. And card B is only allowed to have one of the following in common: the attack, the defense, the level, the type, or the attribute. It can only have one of those things in common. If it has more than one, you can't use it. So now we take card B and add it to our hand. We take card A and banish it face down. Then we have to use the same process to find card C. Then we take card B and banish that one face down too, and then we would just put Cynet mining in the grave face up. Small World in the grave face up. And then we can use that card to normal summon or special summon out however we choose. Boom, done. Okay, so this card right here though, instead of going into these, it goes into these, and these. This card is just used at the bridge because it's level 4 and a dark, meaning that you can, pitch one of these, then go into this, and then go into these. Or you could do the reverse. So you could pitch one of these, or one of these, go into this, and then go into these. So you have options here. You do have options to go into all of these. Now, we have to think about a couple of things. First and foremost, when you're using this card and you're looking at these cards, do you actually want to go into all of these, or which of these do you want to go into? So these are obviously no-brainers for Cynet mining. These you don't want to go into, and you don't even want to draw these cards anyway. You don't want to normal summon them. You want them to come out because of effects. So for Dotscaper, the way you would get Dotscaper out is, let's say I normal summon this card, and then I special this one out to banish this one from my hand, and then she's on the field. I have all three. Then I go into Red Ransom, and let's say I banish her then. So the card I'm looking to banish from my deck is Dotscaper, meaning that I would not be using this card in a normal scenario to get this. Right? That's just not good. And then the other one you're thinking about is, okay, well, Code of Soul, right? What about him? So looking at his quick effect, you can banish this from your graveyard, meaning I would need to get a way to get him into the grave. So yeah, sure, I could maybe, normal summon him out and get him out, and then put him in the grave, but we want to normal these cards. We don't want to normal this, so how do we get him to the grave? The most popular way to do that is we do our combo, and then we get Terahertz. Terahertz can send one monster from your deck or extra deck to the grave. It does have to be a Cypress, meaning that we would use this to get you in the grave. So effectively, we would not want to use Cynet mining to get Code of Soul or Dotscaper in the graveyard. We would want, in our hands. We would want to get these in our hands. And Small World can get these in our hands too, but it can also get all of these in our hand as well. So you can kind of see where Small World has a bit more of an advantage, or it has a bit more in terms of what I can do with my actual hand than Cynet mining. Also, there's a couple of other things we have to look at besides okay, what can it obviously get me? Because this does not require a monster. This does require a monster. So there is already right here, you can say, oh, well, but like, I can turn any card in my hand into my starter, whereas you need a monster, right? Okay, fair point. But there's a couple of things we can look at. So the first thing we have to look at is, how does Ash play? I'm trying to move my cards around so I can see them. Okay, so how does Ash play into these two cards right here? So before resolution, you're actually down one with Cynet mining. Meaning if I use Cynet mining and then you Ash me, I'm down 2 cards and you just used 1 card to do that. So you would love it if I were to play Cynet mining. If I play Small World and you Ash, all I lost was Small World. So there's already a big inherent difference between both of these cards. Forget the fact that Small World can get me pretty much any Bystol of my choosing, or get me Ash, or get me a Dimensional Shifter. Forget that. The fact that I'm down 2 for your 1 Ash is big value. Another thing to think about is, this is a Shifter deck. I'm running 3 Shifter. In any Malice build, it does not matter if I'm going Breakers or Hand Traps, right? So obviously I need cards that work with Shifter. Do both of these cards work under Shifter? No, they don't. This card, Cynet Mining, specifically needs to send a card from your hand to the grave. If Shifter is live, it doesn't work. Also keep in mind, once this fully hits the TCG, a lot of people are going to be playing Malice. So on top of you having 3 Shifter, they're having 3 Shifter. So there's a pretty good chance you're not going to actually be able to use this. On top of that, there are other Shifter decks that are still relevant. You have Ritual Beast and Tempai. There are still some other decks that people are still running around with, like Flow and Cash. So, you know, those kind of decks. Also, Ryzeal, if it wants to, it could play Shifter too. So there's going to be quite a bit of Shifter decks running around in the format. And a lot of people online right now are saying that Shifter is the best hand trap. So you can believe that there are going to be some Shifter decks. Like, there's probably going to be a fair amount of Shifters, to the point that this card right here is not going to feel good. If you drop Shifter or if they drop Shifter, this is dead in your hand. It's not doing anything. Obviously, this card is still going to be good for, you know, your typical Cyberus combo pile decks or whatever. Like, I would still run it in those kind of decks, but that's not what Malice is. So Small World would definitely be better in that in the scenario of you drawing Shifter or your opponent drawing Shifter, because you can use it under Shifter. On top of that, it goes to way more things. It doesn't just have to go to your starters. It can go into extension. It can go into these. It can go into these. Small World compared to Cynet Mining is like, do I just want a starter and I don't care about Shifter, or I don't run Shifter for some reason, versus I run Shifter and I want to curate my hand. I want to go into the next turn with some continuation. I want to go in there with some kind of disruption. I want to go in there with Shifter or whatever, you know. It just has so many more choices. Also, let's talk about the bridge for a second. This bridge is basically a bootleg Bystol. It doesn't have a quick effect to banish, but it does have the effect to banish from your grave. And most Malice decks are going to have a ton of dark monsters, meaning you're always going to be able to get this body out on the field. You primarily want to be using this on your Malice names, but honestly, like your Malice main deck names, but you can honestly be using it to get like these cards banished and push up to like your Malice Slinks, if you have any of these in the graveyard, and then of course if you have a Shifter. So it doesn't even feel that bad to draw this. Like, you would rather not, but you can, and it's fine. It doesn't hurt that bad. It is a card that you don't want to draw, but it's not as bad as drawing Code Soul or Dotscaper. So in my opinion, Smart World is just outright better than Cynet Mining, because one, you're a Shifter deck and you can use Small World under Shifter, whereas you cannot use Cynet Mining under Shifter. That's the biggest thing right there. But another one is, most decks are still going to be running Ash Blossom at 3, meaning that if I play this and you Ash me, I feel like crap because I just lost 2 cards to your 1 Ash. That's big value for my opponent. Big. And then the third, which is just as big as the other 2 examples I just put out there, is I don't have to just go for a starter. I can go for a Bystol. I can go for an Ash. I can go for a Shifter. I have way more choices. I have way more options, which is ultimately going to be better playing, you know, like you're going to be taking this and you're going to go to your locals, your regionals, your YCSs, whatever. And the difference between like the decks that do okay and the decks that do great is the fact that they have a lot of flexibility and choices in what they do. And when we're talking about choices and flexibility, I'm not looking at this, a card that's limited based on my own deck and then obviously the format and trades bad into Ash Blossom versus a card that has way more flexibility in what I can get and have. Like I can go into my opponent's turn with these or this, or if I really want to, I can combo in a way where I can then dump this in the middle of my combo. So yeah, no, like Small World is just straight up better than Cynet Mining and Malice. If you're playing some kind of Cyberus combo deck, yeah, you could definitely use this because this is going to be great. Maybe better than this in that kind of deck, but that's not what Malice is. It's not. Malice is not trying to be a Cyberus combo pile. Malice is just being Malice. So yeah, in my opinion, you should use Small World over Cynet Mining. This card is bad in Malice. Yeah.